Right then, week 2 of 3 done in Moritz, and what a week it was. There was a few highs, few lows, lots of questions, lots of unanswered questions, but let me give you a little bit of a rundown of where I'm at and how it went. So training wise, got into usual sort of routine. So the last video that was training related was a track session at the end of the first week. So Monday started with a relatively easy day. We had a kind of endurance technique drill kind of swim, and then a gym session, and that's pretty standard for us. Felt really good in the gym. Managed to be lifting close to what I was sort of March time, 110, 120 kilos, something like that for the deadlift. Feeling a bit stronger, and that's a big focus for the next block anyway, while I've got some time before Kona. So that was great. Then had a tasty Tuesday, which we did 4 lots of 8 minutes hill reps. The goal was to push them quite hard, and yeah, I did. The hill was bloody steep. I think it averaged between 8 and 9%. So I was covering just under a mile in that 8 minutes. And then we had a 6-minute recovery where I had to sort of get a move on to get back to the bottom, you know, running close to 4 minute per K pace downhill, which was the point of the session. But that definitely smashed the legs up a little bit, both on the up and the down, which was good. And then we did a swim. And this was probably my first, well, I'd call like decent swim at altitude. I was struggling a little bit in week 1, as you'd kind of expect. But yeah, we did 10 lots of 50 times 3 VO2. I actually ended up going off a minute. Was meant to go off 65, 70. But Fenella was going off a minute, and it just seemed to flow a bit nicer. The first set was chaos because we were in effectively a public lane, and there were a couple of Karens. They were very nice, but yeah, didn't necessarily help to swim as fast as we'd like. But I was swimming under 40 seconds and felt pretty good. I then, in my head, thought we were going to kibosh the session because we didn't think doing 3 sets in that lane was going to be beneficial. But a lane cleared, and we managed to do the next 2 sets. The second set, I went 5 seconds behind Fenella, and obviously she pulls away from me, but the speed increased a bit, and I was doing sort of 37, 38s. And then the last set we went side by side, so I got a little bit of benefit as we pushed off together, but not quite as much as being behind her. And I managed to pretty much hold the same pace as the second set, so super happy with that. I'd be really happy with that. It is a 25-meter pool, but I'd be super happy with that at sea level. You know, 1,500 meters of work at sort of 116 to 114 pace per 100 is really good. Did skip a bike ride that day. I had a 90-minute easy spin in the schedule, but wanted to focus on just nailing those 2 sessions really. And I had many other things on with work and stuff anyway. Wednesday was the disaster day. Pretty sure we swam in the morning, and then we went out for what would have been a closer to 2.5 hour ride, and we went out to Bernier Pass, which we've been up a few times, and we did some 40/40s, which were, I'm going to take a seat over here I think. Let's stop the watch. Yeah, did some 40/40s, so 40 seconds on, 40 seconds off. Did a session similar to this just before we came out, so again with some time before Kona, wanted to do some VO2 stuff again, as I haven't done that since, you know, January, February. But yeah, that session went pretty well. I started at like 3:30ish, which is close to sort of my FTP. But a wise man said every 1,000 meters of altitude you lose about 10% of your VO2. So we were about 2,000 meters up, so I didn't want to go after the bigger numbers that I'm used to. And then as I got up the climb, although I was getting higher, I managed to push it and get up to sort of 350, even some of them were at 370. We did it 10 lots of 40-40, short rest, 10 lots of 40-40. And that basically was the whole Bonnier Pass, which was great. Then at the top, usual photo, stick a sticker on the sign, quick regroup, and then start the descent down. And I dropped my chain, and I've done it many times. I know there is a risk to it, but I decided to try and put my chain back on myself. Had a few attempts at it, didn't quite get it on. It had gone over the big ring, so onto the crank rather than into the sort of bottom bracket area. And on one attempt, I basically didn't move my hand as I went to pedal to put the chain back on, knocked my hand into my front wheel, back into the chain rings, and managed to cause some damage to both my thumb and 3 of my fingers. So yeah, not my proudest moment, bit of a silly moment, very close to coming off. I was doing 50-60k an hour at the time, although that feels somewhat slow on some of these descents, because you know I've been hitting 80-90k an hour on some of them, so it felt like I'd slowed down quite a lot. But yeah, if I'd have come off at that speed, I would have done more damage, so grateful for that. And the fingers have healed up reasonably well. The plan was to run off the bike, so I missed another session, so I didn't run off the bike. I actually went to the pharmacy, and a very lovely lady basically cleaned all my wounds and kind of took away the bits of flesh that needed to be taken away and stuff. So yeah, missed that session. That was a 40-minute run off the bike. Oh look who it is.
Oh, hello.
Where was I? Then Thursday, no swimmers in the plan Thursday, which was good because it could give my fingers obviously some time to rest. We did a long ride. I had no idea at the time if I was going to make it all the way around with pulling a brake lever and changing gears, but managed it. We did a massive loop that went out to Davos and back. It was about 150k. It was a really good ride. It was about 5.5 hours, so a long ride, lots of climbing. Another pass ticked off, that Davos pass. I understand there's a race, Challenge Davos there, which is yeah, would be an epic race, although bloody tough going up and down that pass on the bike. And then we had to get the old Strava up, as the memory has failed me. So we did run off the bike. We did basically a lap of the lake, which is about 25 minutes. It's about 5k, easy. Felt really tired, if I'm honest. A 5.5 hour bike and a 30-minute run definitely didn't flow, or the run didn't flow as well as you'd like sometimes. But that is a long ride to then run off, and sort of hopefully that will get better. Friday did a normal day, swim and gym, and we did a 4k easy swim, but we did mix it up and do 2 max 50s, which we did do off the blocks as well. Now I was a bit dubious to whether I'd be able to swim or not, so I took it kind of steady to start with in the warm-up, but I had some finger socks on over my fingers and they were fine, so managed to do the swim, no repercussions of that. Managed to swim my fastest 50 ever, which it was off the block, so I'm assuming you'd probably get a second or so quicker. But yeah, just to even be close to, or swim fastest even off the blocks at altitude, again, starting to feel relatively normal in the water, which was great. We then went to the gym, and I was a bit annoyed after Monday's gym session. I was hoping to sort of ramp up the weights again and so forth, but I couldn't actually grip a lot of the movements we did, so adapted it slightly, did some squats instead, focused on my calves, used the leg press machine, etc. But yeah, not quite the gym session I would have liked. We then had a big day on Saturday, so track session, second one. First track session went reasonably well for me. I hadn't been on the track since, what would it have been when I was back in Calpe, February time. So I was happy with the first 12 400s. This time we did 400, 200, 100 times 7. And all of the 400s were 75 to 78. So they were all under 80, which is great. And then the 200s and 100s, for the most part, I got faster on as well. So that was really good and really encouraging. And definitely we could tell that, you know, we're a bit more adapted to the altitude. The effort felt the same, but the pace was slightly quicker. We then went out on the bike and it was return to Bonnier, where we did 6 by 3 minutes, effectively hard. Again, I thought I'd be able to ride a bit harder than I did power-wise, but yeah, the numbers you just need to tune into your effort a little bit. You can obviously have a power number in mind, but you just don't know as you go up the climb sort of how it will impact you. Did 6 by 3 minutes, didn't drop my chain this time, managed to descend down the climb. That was an 1.5 hour ride. I'm pretty sure the first 3 I did 3:30, and then the last 3 were a real struggle. I did have a problem that I couldn't get into my little ring, so the 3 minutes recovery was a bit grindy, which didn't necessarily help. But yeah, a good session overall. Like, the effort was definitely there, the point of the session, if you like. Then had a pretty special afternoon where Billy and I went and played golf with the Danish King, Daniel Bakkegaard, and Carl Smith. I was paired with Kyle, and yeah, we played golf for about 5.5 hours, which is mental. But yeah, had a really good time. It was so chilled. It was amazing to sort of spend some time with those guys and how open they were and some of the advice. And yeah, not well, it was what I expected, but yeah, a little bit of a pinch me moment, if you like. Sunday, we then had sort of just an aerobic day. We did a long run, which mine was just over 22k, an hour and 45 minutes or so. And we basically were doing 20-minute blocks building to heart rate. And this was one of the most pleasing sessions, if I'm honest, of the week, where I basically nailed the heart rate each time. The pace obviously went up, as you would hope, as the heart rate goes up. We stayed on the lake, which is as I say, 4 or 5k loop, so it's quite easy to just judge where you were at, what you were doing. But yeah, really good, and really pleased to sort of bank a long run up here. And then I did a 3-hour ride afterwards. The weather was a bit grim. Did a bit of heat mapping, went and explored some of the towns that some of the posh hotels are in and stuff. And that concluded the week. So yeah, week 2 done, and a reasonable amount of training, sort of 20, similar to ours last week, 20, 22, 23, something like that. The things we've learned, or I've learned, we've changed our supplement a little bit, so we're taking way more iron. I don't know necessarily, I went into the pharmacy early on and asked for some iron. She gave me that 6 milligram low dose and said take 2 or 3 a day. And then we got a few messages based off my last YouTube video and via Instagram, etc. And we did a bit more research and sort of spoke to some professionals, and yeah, they all advised taking closer to 200 milligrams a day, which is significantly more. So we've done that, and we've also taken on board some high max strength sort of vitamin C to help with the absorption. And so far so good, haven't had any stomach issues or things like that, which are something to consider. The sessions themselves, or in particular like the easy stuff, is just, it's not harder, but you have to just bear in mind that when you're up here, you need to save some energy for the recovery phase, or when you're at home chilling out, sleeping, etc., because your body is working that little bit harder than it would if you're at home or at sea level, etc. So although the sessions, we're trying to do some hard training, you know, some track sessions, some hard stuff on the bike, there is an element of like holding it back a little bit. So if you feel like you've got another few reps in you, that's perfect, and you can use that energy to recover rather than sort of completely emptying the tank and hoping for the best, if you like. Eating wise, I wouldn't say we're eating a lot more, but that is something I'm conscious of, like trying not to ever be hungry, both during and after sessions. So we've pretty much gone through, I think it's the first camp I've ever been on where we probably won't take home any carb mix, gels, etc. Like normally we bring excessive amounts, there's always some left over. This time we definitely will have gone through it all and more, which is good. And then yeah, just eating, we've been eating pretty well in terms of, obviously when there's more of us, take turns with cooking and can kind of mix things up a little bit and not necessarily just eat the same stuff that you're used to. And that's pretty much it. Week 3 is should be a big-ish week. We're going to start with an easy day tomorrow on Monday. And then, yeah, got 5 days of hard training before we start the journey home on Sunday. So there's probably going to be one, maybe 2 big rides in there. Go and explore some other parts, some other passes, and then hopefully get a bit more running volume in. So yeah, missed one run last week. I'd like to get back into the 60 plus K, run 50 something K each week. So an extra run or so would be good. And yeah, then I can't wait to get home and suck in some thick air and see if this has made any difference. If it hasn't, it doesn't matter, because this is an epic place to train, and yeah, very lucky and very privileged to be here. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.